Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us. I'm Nancy Nouse, and I'm with Shannon Acosta, and we're going to talk to you about Social Security. It's a hot topic all the time, and the more some of us age, I'm aging, I don't think Shannon is, but we want to cover everything we can. We do want to have a couple disclaimers, and that is that Social Security is very, very specific to your situation. And so we do recommend that you meet with us and talk about your individual situation, but that you also, as you get closer to retirement, think about meeting with Social Security themselves and talk about all of your specifics, because some of that we can't even provide. I want to give you a little, we want to help you feel more educated, more secure, greater understanding about Social Security, and we're going to cover all that we can. One of us is much more concerned with Social Security than the other one of us, but we're both relatively knowledgeable. We want to give you a little history by way of introduction, and that is, it's kind of cool how Social Security started, and that is FDR in 1935 came up with this idea, he and his administration, and said that really what Social Security is intended to do is there's a line in the sand where no one should ever drop below that income. So it wasn't meant to be a retirement plan per se. It was intended that folks would never drop below basically the poverty line. So that was the intent. And interesting, Shannon did a lot of research on this to find out about it. Interesting that the retirement age at that time and still is 65, but the average death rate during 1935 was age 61. Take that as you will, that's your government at work. But anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. Shannon, I know you've got some resources and some other things to talk about. Unfortunately, you're on mute, so it's fun to have technology, isn't it?
I've only been doing this for a year. I'm still not ready. Right. There are a lot of really great resources for the Social Security program. And oddly enough, the best one is the Social Security Administration itself. They have questions, they have frequently asked questions, they have case studies. It's all formatted really well and easy to read. It's just ssa.gov. And there's going to be a link in the description of the video below. They don't send out Social Security benefit estimates anymore. They've done away with that, but you can find your estimates online. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can create a login and see what's up to date, most current there. To frame everything we're going to talk about, we're going to funnel you toward the Social Security Administration for more detail as much as possible, because we're not experts. And to Nancy's point, everybody is so uniquely different. It's really best to get it straight from the horse's mouth. So please bookmark that if you have a lot of serious questions. There's going to be contact information there for your local Social Security office, and they're really great with phone calls and meetings as well. There are two really main questions hovering around Social Security that we get asked a lot. I can't speak for Nancy, I guess, per se, because I'm not in all of her meetings, but at least for me, the two are, when should I take my Social Security, and is it going to be there? Well, for the first one, we're going to punt a little bit and we're going to defer. The short answer is it's different for everybody. So there's not a magic answer because we're all unique individuals. But we'll address some strategies and things to consider a little bit later in the conversation. But I want to talk about whether or not Social Security will be there for you. And the answer we really firmly believe is yes. Now, I want to point out my earrings this morning. My daughter Annie picked these out for me. We've been having fun lately. She likes to pick out my jewelry in the morning. As a result, this past Saturday, I went to eat pizza in my junior prom earrings that I wore since I was 16, but it was a lot of fun.
You're the prettiest one there, I'm sure.
Sparkling. I did not go in my dress. It's not going to change for you. It might change for me. It's probably most certainly going to change for Annie, my daughter, and for her sister. But there are a few ways that that could happen, and none of them are maybe as dramatic as you might think. It's a pay-as-you-go system. So as people pay into the Social Security system, workers like me, like Nancy, one day my daughter, it's going to go out to the people who are getting the benefits. Now, the conundrum right now is that more people are taking out than are putting in. But back in about 1985, this happened. This is not the first time this has happened. So they changed a few things. It's really just a function of income versus expenses. They increased the full retirement age. We'll talk about that in a second. They increased the payroll tax rate We'll talk about that more in a second too. And for the first time ever, they instituted taxes on the Social Security benefit. As a result of those changes, almost 50 years ago, in the second the math will make sense, that surplus that we currently have is slated to last until 2035. So it's there. We have enough to pay everybody what they deserve until 2035. And at some point, just like they will have done 50 years ago on that 2035 date, they'll make some changes with income and expenses of the program. There are a few different ways you can do this. You can reduce the benefit. So if you're getting $2,000 a month right now, it's theoretical that you could get $1,900 a month when they start to do that. I don't know about you, but if I'm a politician and I'm proposing budget changes, I'm not going to put that on my re-election short list of ways to get voters. I would be very surprised if that were to happen, but I'm not a politician. They can increase the full retirement age. Like Nancy pointed out earlier, it started at age 65. Now it's up as much as 67. For Annie, it could be 70 or 75. They could decrease the benefit that you get when you delay. Nancy will talk a little bit more about this in a second, but the longer you wait to take Social Security up to a point, the bigger your benefit grows. They might curb that a little bit. They could also reduce or increase the amount of income coming into the Social Security program. They could do this by increasing the tax rate. Right now, we all pay about 6.5% plus or minus. Your employer pays about the same. That might go up. They could increase the threshold. A lot of people don't know this, but only a certain amount of your income is taxed for Social Security. They might increase that threshold because that hasn't changed in a long time, but we're all making a lot more money than we were back in 1985. They might also increase the taxes that we pay on Social Security. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The bottom line is the system is not destined for disaster. It's going to be there. We can't expect changes. Well, maybe not you, but your children or grandchildren. And the Social Security benefit is something that you're going to want to maximize for yourself, but you should not count on it. None of this really matters if you've taken the steps to prepare for retirement ahead of time. And we don't mean to minimize if you really are counting on Social Security income. We get you, we hear that. But for those of you who are younger and looking forward to how Social Security can dovetail into your retirement package, you don't want to count on it because too much is out of our control. Nancy, can you tell us a little bit more about what our choices are at present with Social Security?
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. I do want to go over that. And I also want to play off of what Shannon just said. And that's one of the things that we do when we run analysis for our clients, and we're happy to do that for you if you're not a client currently, is to really play with the numbers. And what I mean by that is that let's look at your projections with Social Security and without it. Because when I go through the choices, some of them are not that great when you can get the money and the discounts that you have to suffer through and all that. And many people have to take those because they've not planned well. And that is one of the reasons that we're on the planet, to help you plan well and to make sure that you are ready when you want to retire for whatever comes your way. And that means that, I mean, when Shannon said don't count on it, we really mean that. We want you to plan as if it's not going to be there. I think it will be there. I agree with everything Shannon said, but I want it to be gravy, not meat or vegetables, depending on whether you're a vegetarian or not. Okay, hope I didn't offend anyone. I'm so good at that. At any rate, so let's go over your choices. There are three that I'm going to cover, and I am going to look at my notes just to make sure that I get it right. The first is you have the option to take early payments, and early payments under the SSA administration is considered to be 62 to 66, depending on the date of your birth. And it's punitive, meaning you're going to be penalized if you take it early, and that can be as much as a 30% reduction. That's pretty severe. So again, going back to planning, we don't want you to be in that position where you have to take it early, you have to take that reduction because it can be a nice amount of gravy coming in. If you take it early, if you get that reduction, that's permanent. You can't ever get away from the 30% or up to 30% reduction. All right, that's number one, and we don't want that one. We want to plan accordingly. Number two is to start benefits at the full retirement age, which for everybody right now is 65 to 67. Can that change? Yes. It's changed from when my parents took Social Security. It will change when Annie gets Social Security. So again, it depends on the year of your birth. You have, you'll have the opportunity to add to it if you continue working during those years. So that's kind of a nice plus. So you can work longer and add to your potential earnings, which is a sweet thing. And Social Security benefits, as a reminder, are based on your top 35 highest years of earnings. So that plays into the equation as well. And then as a reminder too, Social Security benefits are guaranteed to go up 8% a year every year that you wait. That's current. That could change, but that's current, and that's pretty sweet. That's a guaranteed 8%. That's not something we can do for you here, so that's a consideration. The third one, and frankly my favorite, is to delay and get every bit that you can to full retirement age, and that is age 70. For so many of our clients, they're going to work until 70 or after. That's certainly my plan, just because I love what I do. I love doing things like this. I love working with folks and helping them understand things like this. So there is a financial incentive to delay. That 8% is a pretty sweet return, and I think that has to be a consideration if you're in the ability to do that. Obviously, the later you claim, the more you receive. And if you delay, for example, from age 67 to age 70, that's 3 years at 8%. That's a 24% increase. That's sweet. And that's for the rest of your life. But you can't defer it forever. Age 70 is the maximum age. We have several clients who've gotten a call from Social Security saying, we have to send you a check, you're 72. And this couple had not claimed it yet. So they're going to pay you from age 70 on. In this couple's case, they got a nice size check because of the months that they had not received benefits. So anyway, that's kind of fun. Shannon, I know you want to talk a little bit about spousal benefits, and that's important to many folks. So why don't you take it from here?
Sure. Well, if you think it's complicated to consider your Social Security benefits as a single individual,
if you're confused now, wait just 1 second.
We got a deal for you.
Right.
Being married or divorced or widowed, it gets even more complicated. So we'll touch on a few of these scenarios. And again, I can't say this enough. Social Security Administration, go make an appointment, because they have all of your very specific details and work through this with a fine-tooth comb. But in general, let's talk about a couple who's married. I know a couple. His name is Jim. Her name is Pam. I know them from a show called The Office. They don't know me. I know them very well. And if you're not familiar with the reference, then I apologize. But at least maybe we can work through these examples with names in place. So let's say that Jim and Pam get married. They met at work, but once they start having children, Pam decides to stay at home. Or Jim, you can decide. Well, once Jim retires and he starts taking his Social Security benefit, Pam has the option. She can either take her own Social Security benefit based on her own work history, or she can take half of Jim's, whichever one is greater. And in fact, she doesn't get to choose. The Social Security Administration will determine which one is higher and automatically give it to you. Back to Nancy's point from earlier, they want you to get paid. They're not trying to trick you, but you should know this going into it. So let's say that Jim is retired and he's older than Pam. Pam can start her Social Security benefit as early as age 62. And just like Nancy mentioned earlier, the earlier you start, the lower the benefit's going to get. But unlike the situations Nancy was mentioning earlier, your spousal benefit can't increase beyond that full retirement age amount. So whatever Jim's benefit is going to be, if she chooses the spousal at his full retirement age, Pam won't benefit from waiting until she is 67, 68, 69. It's not going to get any bigger. She's going to want to start it at her full retirement age. But she can't do that until Jim is retired and has already started his benefit. So if Pam is 68 and Jim is still working and he's not drawing in his benefit, Pam isn't getting a Social Security benefit right now. She might be able to get hers and switch to his later, but the intricacies are very complex. The laws change around this all the time. So talk to the Social Security Administration about whether or not that's a good strategy for you. If you're divorced, a couple commonalities, a couple differences. As long as you were married for at least 10 years, you are still eligible for the spousal benefit of your ex-spouse. So if in a very, very sad world, Jim and Pam get divorced. Pam can still get a spousal benefit from Jim. I know, Nan, I know what you're thinking.
I don't want them to get a divorce.
Sorry to put that thought in your head. It's just for the sake of the example. Hopefully you'll thank me later.
Understood.
As long as they were married for at least 10 years, and I believe you have to have been divorced for 2 years, but you could correct me on that, then you can still get a benefit based on your ex-spouse's history. Where this is different from the married spousal benefit is that you don't have to wait until your ex-spouse starts filing for their own benefit. So as soon as you want to, as soon as you're 62, if you really want to, your spouse is still working, they haven't claimed their own, ex-spouse, excuse me, you can start taking, you don't have to wait until him or her. So that's married, that's divorced. There's another category, that's surviving spouse. Nancy, could you start there and bring us home?
Yeah. Confused yet? Understood. It's complicated. And now we want to talk a little bit about what if your spouse dies? And it used to be, what if your husband dies? But it's not that anymore. Now it's what if your spouse dies? And there's several things to consider. First of all, a widow or widower can keep their own benefit or switch to the deceased spouse's benefit, whichever is greater. Do you know? Maybe, maybe not. So that's something to explore. The survivor benefits are available as early as age 60, but just like before, there's going to be a reduced benefit if you take it early, and that's considered early by what we talked about previously. Okay, sorry. You also can refile at a later date to collect your own personal Social Security benefit. So this is where it continues to get a little bit complicated. And I know, Shannon, we should make an appointment with the Social Security Administration so that we'll know exactly what our specific information is.
The who?
The Social Security Administration. Was that SSA? What was that website again?
SSA.gov.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the one. So how do you decide when to start claiming your benefits and how do you do all that? Well, one, of course, we'd recommend you sit down with your advisor and look at other sources of income that you have for retirement. I know that you have planned well. You've put money away in 401ks and Roths and SIPCs and all kinds of retirement vehicles. And I know you're living on less than you make because that's how you roll. So number one, you need to know what is your estimated Social Security benefit? How much is it? And as Shannon mentioned, you can go to the website and look at that. You plug your numbers in. You can make an appointment with them. And I don't know, at what age would you say, Shannon, is a good time to start checking your benefits?
A combination of when you're approaching retirement and when you're approaching retirement age. So if you're in your 50s and you're thinking about stopping working, it's probably a good time to check in.
Yeah, I think so too. I really think it depends on you as an individual. I am 60 now. I don't think I'm going to retire until I'm 80, probably about 65, 66. I'm going to start checking. Nonetheless, I have gone to the website. I am plugged in. I can check it periodically because if nothing else, you want to make sure that they have your income correct for, remember the high 35 years. Well, you're probably making more now than you've made your entire life, and it's important to check that. So number one, get an estimate on what your benefit is. Number two, consider how long you're going to live. How long is your retirement? When did your parents die? What do you think is going to happen? Of course, we don't know. There's no crystal ball, but I would use your family history as a guide, all right? And then what's the break-even chart? What's the break-even point? I think that's an important consideration. And if you need the money when you turn 62, then you need to look at taking it unless you're going to work. In some cases you can't, and all of that's a consideration. And so I think it's important that you really get a plan, even from age 50 to 55, to begin thinking about what is the plan, what's the vision, what do I want to do, and begin to put the pieces together. And Shannon, let's talk a little bit about, what if you'll continue working, how does that play into all this?
Sure. A lot of folks retire and they don't want to completely hang up their hat. They want to have a part-time job and get out there. But you need to think about that before you start taking your benefit. If you are at your full retirement age, you can earn as much money as you want and the Social Security Administration will not reduce your benefit. That makes sense. But if you're younger than your full retirement age, they will. Currently, they will offset your benefit by $1 for every $2 you earn over a certain threshold. And I don't remember what the threshold is. It's not very high. The bottom line is, if you start taking Social Security when you're 62, just because you want the money, but you're still working, you're probably not going to get a benefit. Now, something I learned when I was doing research for this is that they will eventually repay you for that. They will eventually get you back up to your regular age 62 benefit when you filed early. I'm not quite sure why that law exists, other than I think it's a deterrent. If you're working, if you're a member of, if you're earning income from an employer, you really shouldn't need that income from the Social Security Administration. So they're trying to get you to delay it, which could be to your benefit and to theirs. And there's not usually any win-wins in the government and the people. So I would take them up on that if I were you. And then the other thing that you should consider is the tax consequences. Like we said earlier, Social Security earnings were not taxed before the 1980s, and they are now. But unlike when you are earning a salary and you get your W-2 and you see what your gross wages are, each of those dollars is taxable. With Social Security benefits, not everything you bring in will be taxable. So for simplicity's sake, if you're single and you're making under $25,000, your Social Security benefits aren't taxed. If you're single and you're making over $34,000, as much as 85% will be taxed. If you're married, those limits increase. They almost double, but not quite. So go to the website, ssa.gov, and find out for sure. But the long and the short of it is no more than 85% of your benefits will be taxed, and those thresholds have not changed since the 1980s. So the likelihood is that most of us who are earning Social Security benefits at this point will pay about 85% in taxes. But again, it's possible that you won't be. That's another benefit of Roth IRA income in retirement, and where we can help you with the planning. If you make your other income tax-free, you can lower the amount of reportable income as you're filing taxes, which will lower the amount of your Social Security benefit that is taxable. So talk to one of your advisors about that if you want to plan around that. We've talked about the numbers of determining when to take your benefit, but there are a lot of other factors too. Nancy, can you tell us a little bit about some of the more intangible, emotional things to consider?
Sure. You know how when you go on vacation, you have that picture of hiking in the mountains or laying on the beach or whatever, and it is so wonderful. It is wonderful when you get there. Sometimes getting there, air travel, traffic, etc., is not that great. And it can really be a pretty stressful time traveling, anytime, certainly most recently. And I would liken that to retirement. As we work with clients that are moving into retirement, they're so excited about getting there, but the process of getting there can be a little complicated and a whole lot stressful. Rolling 401ks into IRAs with us and determining pension payouts and thinking about Social Security can be very stressful, because once you've submitted your benefit claims to Social Security, that's it. So it's not like you can get a do-over. Once they get those forms, they're going to go with what you told them you wanted to do. So I think some things to consider when you're processing through this, and of course we're available to help you, because I think processing is an important word. I think you need to talk to someone, your spouse, your family, your advisor, about when do you really want to retire? And what does retirement look like? You know, we say all the time, you can't just retire from something, you need to retire to something. And we believe very firmly in that. Do you want to work part-time? Do you want to be, you know, it's fun to talk to clients who say, I'm retiring at 65, period. And then 65 comes and goes and they're like, I don't know, I'm having a pretty good time. I'm making a lot of money. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't doing this. And so it continues. So I think it's an ongoing process. It's really important to talk about and think about, when do you really want to retire? Next is how do I want to spend my retirement? What do I want to be doing? What's the cost of that going to be? And do I have the right strategy to achieve my goals? That's a great question, and that's one we really want to help you with. I think another one to consider is, who am I being influenced by? I know that your family is very, very helpful and your friends are super helpful, but they are completely different than you in so many respects. In personality and characteristics, Shannon and I are very similar, but we're different in ages, we're different in marital status, we're different with goals. And even if we made the same amount of money and we're going to get the same amount of money at Social Security time, we may not be spending the same. You have to consider your individual situation. You can do that with us. You can do that by going to the website. You also can do that by making an appointment to talk to them, which we cannot recommend to you enough. This stuff is complicated. If we've lost you at any time, some of that is our fault, but some of this is just because it's complicated. It's a whole different language and stuff that for many of you, you might not have considered before. So we want to let you know that we're available to talk through any of this, to answer any questions we can. We're happy to jump on a Zoom call with you and Social Security if that would be helpful. You let us know how we can help. But we're very grateful that you're attentive enough to listen to us and take in all of this information. Shannon, anything that you'd add to that?
I don't think so. We're just glad that you're here. We know this isn't, the kind of topic you want to grab a bowl of popcorn and munch on and watch. This is pretty heady. If you have questions or if we blaze through something more quickly than you would have liked, please let us know. We're happy to break it down for you again.
Absolutely. Thanks, Shannon. Thank you for being with us, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.